Occasionally I'm asked by a patient or a friend, what is the best herbal remedy that they could take for their cold or flu or for whatever illness they're experiencing. Today I'm going to show you exactly what I recommend. Hi, I'm Dr. Christensen. Welcome to my office. Today I'm going to share with you a formula that we put together several years ago, I think in 2016, that I recommend for many of my patients who are struggling with a cold or a flu or some infectious type illness. And many times people want to know, what is the best thing that I can take and what can I offer for them. And so this is the remedy that I've put together. We call it Herbal Gold because of the Goldenseal. That's the primary ingredient that it takes its name from. So this is generally a formula that we recommend for adults because it doesn't taste great. But again, our goal is function. I often tell people the bottom line of everything that we do is results. And that's what we want with this formula, and that's what we've got with this formula. So this is an alcohol-based extract that we put together. Again, as we've spoken before, we use alcohol because alcohol is one of the great tools that we can use in extracting the medicinal properties out of the plant. Imagine for a moment that I'm a water molecule. I'm the oxygen and a hydrogen and a hydrogen. Can you see both my hands? Mm-hmm. And so water is very stable. Alcohol, on the other hand, is an oxygen and a hydrogen and an open hand looking to grab something. And so when we expose the alcohol, we always use an ethanol, which is the type that's safe to drink. We don't use rubbing alcohol. We don't use methanol or anything like that. We always use, typically we're going to use vodka or one of the spirits that's got at least 25% or 50 proof alcohol or higher. So again, imagine that if I'm an alcohol, I'm the oxygen with a hydrogen and an open hand looking for something. That open hand looking for something to bond to is able to pull the phytochemicals or the medicinal properties out of the root or out of the plant and bring it in suspension into the liquid extract. That's what we want. If you try to do something out of just water or glycerin or something else, even vinegar, it's not going to be as strong and potent as an alcohol. And so what we typically use with this formula is vodka. It's 40% alcohol, which is 80 proof, and that works real fine for this. If we wanted to be a little more technical with the roots, 65% is probably a little bit better, but the 40%, which is so readily available, and it works great, that's what we use. So this formula is comprised of 6 different herbs. We use Goldenseal, Echinacea, Lomatium, Polk Root, Lobelia, and Cayenne pepper. And these, in synergy with each other, form just a very, very nice, powerful, potent formula that has been so effective in helping many of our patients overcome illnesses, whether they begin taking it at the beginning of the illness or sometime during. It just seems to strengthen the immune system. It fights the infections directly and just knocks things out in a very, very short time and strengthens the immune system. As many of you know, when you take an antibiotic, which occasionally is necessary, it overall weakens and depletes the immune system, wiping out the good bacteria in the body. And so again, this is something that we found to be very, very beneficial and effective. The first root or the first herb in this formula is Goldenseal root. Goldenseal, as many of you know, is expensive. Retail value right now today, which is April 6, 2020, is about $270 a pound, and so it's quite costly, and for good reason. It's fairly rare. It's difficult to find. Goldenseal, I grew some once. Requires about, what they say, 87% shade, meaning that it grows in the dark forests. And so it's typically grown. It's an American herb. It's grown in the Appalachian Mountains, in the forest where there's a strong a strong cover canopy over the forest, so it doesn't get much direct sunlight at all. The Goldenseal we find is antibacterial, it's antiviral. In fact, there was researchers at North Carolina University, the microbiology department, found that Goldenseal, when exposed to the H1N1 virus, stops its replication and will actually destroy and kill that. H1N1, as many of you probably are aware, or maybe you're not, all the seasonal flu viruses that we have and that they vaccinate people for are various mutations of H1N1, which was the original Spanish flu of 1918. And so Goldenseal has been proven to be effective in fighting this. This is a Native American herb. It's one that the Cherokees used for people with what they call general debility, meaning if your constitution, you're the one that gets sick all the time, they would give you Goldenseal. They would actually use Goldenseal also in a salve with bear grease, and they would slather it all over their body as an insect repellent. We don't recommend that, unless you can find a good source of bear grease, I guess. And so our point is that as the foundational herb for this formula, Goldenseal is a great one to choose. So with Goldenseal, what we're using is the root of the plant, and I can show you here Goldenseal. Goldenseal will give you that golden color. You see the goldish brown. For this formula, we're going to use a half a cup of Goldenseal. And so we'll see if I can pour it into the cup without spilling it all over the place. So there's our Goldenseal. I tell people when we're making a normal formula, don't be stingy with the herbs. And then when you press it, you want to be greedy with what you've got. So I've got a half a cup of Goldenseal. That's our first ingredient. The next herb on our list is Echinacea. We use specifically Echinacea Angustafolia. There's about 9 different species of Echinacea that you'd be able to find. Echinacea Angustafolia is the most potent. It's the strongest. One of the things that you'll notice with Echinacea, if you put some of the root in your mouth, you'll soon be able to feel or taste a tingling sensation. That lets you know that the Echinacea is a powerful and potent one. If you take an Echinacea product and you don't get that tingling on your tongue, I would question the strength or the potency of what you've got. Echinacea is a great herb that is used generally to support and build the immune system, but it also is known to have antiviral effects. Again, when we're dealing with a virus or a bacteria, that antiviral component is important. Echinacea specifically is used for the common cold and influenzas, so this is another good choice. This is what Echinacea root looks like. One of our common suppliers is Mountain Rose Herbs. We really appreciate the quality that they provide for us. And then so you look at the Goldenseal, the Echinacea Angustafolia, and it's a nice dense bark. And if you put a piece of this in your mouth and you begin chewing on it, soon you'll get that tingle sensation that I mentioned. And so next in our batch goes a half a cup of Echinacea Angustafolia. And there it goes. The next root that we use is called Polk Root. Polk is a plant that is poisonous, and so you do not want to eat the leaves, you don't want to eat the berries, but the root is okay. And so the root is one of the terms they use is it's soothing and it's demulcent. It will take swollen glands or congested lymphatics, and it'll help that to drain. And so anytime that we're working with killing something that we don't want in the body, like a virus or a bacteria, there's going to be some debris, and that often will get shuttled into the lymphatic channels. The lymph system, as I often refer it to people, is kind of like the sewage system of the blood supply. So you've got arteries here, you've got veins here, you've got capillaries that are in between, and that's where the lymphatic channels begin. And so anything that the body doesn't want back into the bloodstream, it pushes it out into the interstitial area where it could be absorbed and taken by the lymphatic channels. Polk Root helps to cleanse and clean things out, and so it's an important herb. It's also an herb that was used for respiratory problems and viruses, and so again it has an added dimension to that with what we're looking for. And so Polk Root is a very effective one. It can be used as a poultice. A poultice, as you may know, is where you basically you cook or you mash up a bunch of herbs together and you put that on the part of the body that is swollen. Classically used is for breast infections or mastitis. And so Polk Root is one that we use. It's a nice light colored herb. And again, you can look at the Polk Root here. It looks kind of similar to pleurisy root. The smell is very distinct though. And so as you become acquainted with herbs, you want to taste them, you want to smell them, you want to get the experience of that herb so that you become familiar with it. If you're gathering herbs in the wild, what we call wild crafting, it's important that you have an absolute 100% identification. There are many herbs that look similar to one another, and one may be highly poisonous and one not. And so it's important that you have that positive identification. The next herb that we use here is called Lomatium Root, and this is another Native American root. The Lomatium Root has been used by Native Americans primarily for respiratory tract infections, but it's also highly antiviral. It's antibacterial. It's antifungal. You can use it as a wash. They actually use this one as a douche for chronic fungal infections, vaginal infections. And so, again, Lomatium has a very, very distinct smell. Once you smell Lomatium, you'll be familiar with it. And so as you see here, Lomatium is, when you get it, it's kind of fibery, and again, the taste and the texture and the smell is very, very distinct. And so when I'm measuring a half a cup, I'm visualizing in my mind, if this were ground into a finer cut. Typically, when you buy a cut herb from a supplier, it's going to be like 1/4-inch type chips or cup. And so you can see here I'm a little over the top, but if it were cut and smashed down, that would give me pretty close to half a cup. And so that goes in my formula here. The last two ingredients are Lobelia and Cayenne pepper, and we use these for their adaptogenic purposes. Lobelia is a sedative. It calms the nervous system. You can give somebody who's all keyed up and anxious, a little bit of Lobelia, and it just kind of calms things down very, very often. You give them too much, and it acts as an emetic. An emetic is the term we use medicinally, makes you throw up. And so too much is not good. Lobelia also has a stimulatory effect to the lungs, to the respiratory system. And so often I'll use Lobelia in like our lung formula for somebody with asthma. We've gotten people off their inhalers by just using the Lobelia. And so Lobelia, we use it for its adaptogenic properties. Understand that herbs are smart. They can adapt to what the body needs at this time. And so with the Lobelia, it's what they call the aerial parts of the plant, meaning that anything that grows above the ground. Lobelia is classic. If you suck on a piece of Lobelia, it's going to cause the back of your throat to be a little bit scratchy. And so again, when we look at herbs, they all have their unique and distinct characteristics. And so half a cup of no. And so with Lobelia, we're not going to use a half a cup, but an eighth of a cup. And so this is a cute little 1/8 cup. An eighth of a cup is 2 tablespoons worth. There's 4 tablespoons in a fourth of a cup, 16 tablespoons in a cup. So an eighth of a cup of Lobelia. And again, that's for its specific adaptogenic properties. It's going to relax things. It's going to allow the herbs to get where they need to be. If the body and system is more relaxed, it's going to be more readily acceptable of the powerful herbs that we want to deliver. And the final herb that we use is cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper, as we all know, is hot. And so, again, cayenne is adaptogenic. It increases the circulation. It's a stimulant. However, it will also stop bleeding, which makes no sense, right? Unless you understand that it's adaptogenic, meaning it will adapt to whatever the need or the purpose of it is. And so people will ask, well, how hot of cayenne do I need to get? Do I need to get 20,000 heat units? Those are called Scoville heat units. Or do I need 180,000 or 240,000 heat units? And the answer is, depends on how hot you want it. And so we find that the lower, this is 35,000 heat units, and it seems to be just fine. Some people like things hotter. I promise you this is going to be hot enough. And so I use a tablespoon of my cayenne pepper. So that goes in the jar. And so I've got my 6 ingredients. I've got Goldenseal, I've got Echinacea Angustafolia, I got Polk Root, I have Lomatium Root, I have Lobelia, and cayenne. And that's our formula. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and blend this with the alcohol, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here we are in our kitchen or our workshop in the office, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ingredients here that we've all put together. You can see the Goldenseal and the Echinacea and the Polk Root and the Lomatium, and then the cayenne on top and the Lobelia somewhere in there. And so what I simply do is I simply dump all the ingredients into the blender. I'm going to use some just the cheapest vodka that we can find. We don't care about the taste. Again, the alcohol is a tool. It's not a beverage. And so we put the alcohol in here. And I'm going to fill it up to the top measuring line so we don't cause it to overflow. We use the Blendtex. I like Blendtex and Vitamixes. Those are both powerful blenders that work real well, although I'm sure anything that you have will work. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this, and I'm going to hear the Lomatium, because it's the biggest and the chunkiest thing, and it's going to be rattling around, and I kind of use that as a gauge to know when things are broken up enough. You notice the hand is always on the top. We've learned by sad experience you want to keep the top covered real well. I'm going to just blend it a little bit more. And that's mostly just for me to hear whether or not the Lomatium root is broken down enough. And so, oops. And so it goes back into the jar. I'm going to use my vodka to get everything out. then I take my jar. We've pre-measured everything, so it's going to be 2 quarts, and I bring my volume of liquid right up to the neck. I want about an inch from the top, and what you'll see is I don't quite use all the vodka in the half-gallon size, and I've tried to get all of it to fit, but it doesn't. And so lid goes on here, and there's my tincture. We always label everything that we've done, and so I've got some labels that I've made here for the Herbal Gold. You could use a piece of masking tape or a blank label right on what it is and the date. And so today is April 6th, 2020. And so the label goes on the jar. And so what you need to do with this is you're going to shake this every day a couple times. And that just mixes things up. After 2 weeks, you'll be ready to strain. And so after 2 weeks, we provide in the kit a paint strainer, which works better than cheesecloth. And so you'll strain it through the paint strainer, or if you're real fancy like us, we'll use our herb press. And so we can put the herb in the cup here, and we can press it, and literally it comes out dry. We've got a 4-ton press here, and we can really get the benefit out of it. Once you've strained it, the liquid is what you use. And so we put it in 4-ounce bottles, and the dosage that you use is 2 dropperfuls to 1 teaspoon 2 to 3 times a day. And so that's what we do. We typically mix it with water because it's got that strong Goldenseal, which is bitter. It's got the Lomatium, it's got the Echinacea, it's got the Cayenne pepper, so it's a little bit spicy. And so we put it in some water, you shoot that down. And sometimes people will chase it with something more desirable than the taste of this. But this is the big guns, and this is what we found to work for so many people who are sick or struggling, or just to boost and strengthen your immune system, so that if you do get sick, you're going to be in much better shape to fight it and conquer that. Contraindications to this, really not much. These are all very, very safe herbs. The only one that some people have had problems with is the Lomatium Root can cause a rash or nausea. And so if you experience nausea or a rash, discontinue, obviously, and it should clear right up. But generally, these are very, very safe herbs to take and shouldn't cause any problems or undue symptoms other than a nasty taste in your mouth for a minute. And so we have kits available if you're interested. We will post the recipe. I kind of talked you through it as I went. My belief is we share things openly. And so, yeah, this is proprietary. This is something that we came up with on our own, but we want people to share it and be healthy. And so, give it a try. This is the big guns, Herbal Gold. If you thought this video had some useful information, we encourage you to share, to like, to do all the other social media stuff that I don't understand. And again, let's help as many people as we can to get healthy.